Good afternoon. My name is Jamie. I'm in your Bio 235 class. Pardon the coughing and the sniffling. We're trying to recuperate from cold, flu, whatever. Anyhow, today we're going to talk about the axal skeleton and Bob's bones here. So, okay, we'll start with the cranial bones. This is the frontal bone. Can you come closer? Like, see the top of his head. These are the parietal bones. And then we have the occipital, which is back here. And then the external occipital protuberance is right here, and it is a landmark used by doctors. Also, we have the mandibular joint, the mastoid process behind the ear, the styloid, which is right behind the ear, and the squamous part is right back here. Next, we have the internal view, which Bob's going to have to lose the top of his head. Sorry, Bob. We have the petrous part of the temporal bone, which houses the components in here for the inner ear. We have the styloid process, which is behind the inner ear. Oh, wait, I already said that. I'm sorry. Let's see, the internal acoustic meatus, which is where the internal auditory branch is at, and the sphenoid, which is in the front here, and the lateral and orbital parts go out on each side to the back laterally. Let's see, the superior orbital fissure is where, in here, where the optic nerve passes through. The lesser wing, which would be right up here, this triangular part, and the greater wing, which are back here. Let's see, what else do we have? We have the optic canal, which the ophthalmic nerves pass through, and then the stella ternitia, where the pituitary gland is housed. Let's see, okay, gotta give Bob his head back because we're moving on to the sutures of the brain, which is be right up here, okay, Haley? This here is the coronal suture. It separates the frontal bone and the parietal bones. This is the sagittal suture, which separates the parietal bones. And the lumboid connects the parietal bones to the occipital bone, so that's that right there. And the squamous, which is right back here behind Bob's ears. Okay, moving on to Bob's face. We have the maxilla, which is this area. And it also houses the sockets for the teeth. This is the nasal bone right here. A little depth perception's off there, sorry. The zygomatic, which is over here. And the two bones that make up the zygomatic arch are the temporal bone and the maxilla. The ethmoid, let's see, the vomer, and what the bones that form the septum are the ethmoid bone and the cerebrum plate. The inferior nasal concha is this thing right here that divides the nasal septum. Or I'm sorry, the inferior nasal concha. And we have the mandible, the body of the mandible or the chin, the angle, which is this part here, the ramus, which is the long part of the jaw, the mandibular condyle, which is right back here, the very corner part, and the mandibular notch right here, and this is, I'm sorry, this is the mandibular notch, and the conaroid process, which is the triangular bone protruding from the back of the lower jaw. Now back or onto Bob's vertebrae. Excuse me. There are 4 different types of vertebrae. There are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. The cervical are the first 7, and the first one up here is known as the atlas, which supports the head or the skull and the spinal cord. If you could look at me, Haley, the camera. It gives you your range of motion for your head and neck. Okay, back to Bob. This is the first of 7 and supports the skull and spinal cord. The unique process of this vertebrae is that muscle and ligaments attach to them, and the rest of the larger vertebrae support the weight of the upper body. The thoracic section, there are 9 vertebrae. The spinous process is the little bony part that sticks out right here on the back. And then the transverse process, which is the left and the right parts of the bone of the vertebrae. The body or the centrum, which is the middle portion. And the invertebral discs, which are in between the vertebrae, as you can see here. Thank you, Bob. Let's see. There are 5 lumbar vertebrae, and down here. And let's see, the sacrum. There can be anywhere from 4 to 6 vertebrae fused to the sacrum, and the coccyx is the very, very bottom of Bob's tailbone there. Now we will move on to the ribs. Excuse me. There are 7 pairs of true ribs, which are connected to the sternum by costal cartilage. The rest of the ribs are false or floating ribs, and they're attached to each other by cartilage as well. The tuberculae and neck and head of the ribs fit into these little depressions on the vertebrae, giving the rib cage more stability and protection for the vital organs. And oh my goodness, last but not least, I'm sorry, was the sternum. I kind of overlooked that. The sternum. This part right here is the manubrium. Right here, this is the body of the sternum, and the xiphoid process, and the jugular notch is right up here at the very top of the sternum, the breastbone. And I think that covers it for this video. We'll be seeing you soon for our next video. Thanks.